And here we go. All right. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Michael. I'm a church brand guide. This is where I want to serve you as your virtual communications director, ultimately to get you to further faster as a church communications person that's trying to do some marketing and reach more people. We say it this way. I want to help you become your church's brand expert so that you see more strangers turn into contributors, more strangers coming to your church, and then not stopping there, but becoming contributors to the vision that God has given you. I want to help you steward your resources well, so you're saying yes to the right things. You see more guests taking place, more life change happening, and more support for the vision that God has given you. We have 4 areas that we go through here at Church Brand Guide to get to this place of brand clarity, where you build a brand that's clear and attractive that people want to come and be a part of. First, we have to get clear about who we are, who we serve. Second, we create the experience that's in line with that clarity. Third, we attract people. Have to have a strategy, a plan to attract people. And then fourth, I want to help you to get buy-in so that when people come, they come back. So today we're going to be touching on that first area of get clear, but also on number 3, attracting people. So we're going to get clear to attract people. Today we're talking about this system that's going to help you promote really well this year coming up. I see 8 comments. There's some comments coming in. So I just want to make sure that you know that there's going to be a Q&A at the end of everything. I'll take about 15 to 20 minutes to go through some content. And then at the end, we'll answer some questions if you have some questions. So feel free to type in some comments on the chat, and I'll take a look at that here in just a moment. So we're going to dive into this here today. Let me introduce myself. My name is Michael. This is my family. If you can see the screen, if you're watching this video, we moved to South Florida about 10 months ago now to help start a new church. I'm not a pastor. I have my own business. I actually have an agency where I help churches to create brands, specialize in working with churches. I also work with companies as well. So everything from logos and websites. But I basically work with companies and churches that are just around the country. So I'm not dependent on a location, and my kids are homeschooled. So we created this family brand, and part of our brand is to just do things that honor God as a family, do ministry together as a family. In fact, on my screen right now, you can see our family brand. Like I do this for myself. It's not just something that it's just an idea. It's something that I apply for my own life, my own family, as well as the churches that I work with. So we decided we'd move down to South Florida, start this church, and do this ministry as a family, supporting Pastor Brandon and Vibrant Church down in the Fort Lauderdale area. This is why Matthew 5:16 says, "In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify the Father in heaven." And as I look at marketing in general for churches, this is what I see. We're just letting the light of Jesus that's happening in our church, the good things that we're doing in our church, be seen in the community. And when that happens, when people see what's happening in the community, they see it on Facebook, they see it on YouTube, they see it on a website, then they're drawn to it, because what we do as a church it's a beautiful thing. It's amazing that we get to see life change taking place and people living better stories as a result of what we do. And we just need to let that out and let more people see what's happening. And that's really just an oversimplified way of saying that's why I do branding and help churches to create brands and the marketing that comes out of that. So today we're going to be jumping into this event promotions and planning system. This was something that I developed while I was consulting with a church. It's about 3 years ago now. One of the churches hired me to come in and just be their communications director as a consultant for a year. So I took on that role and created some systems. But this one today I'm going to show you is probably the one that made the greatest impact. It was adopted for the communications marketing side of the church. But then like the leadership of the church, this is a church of about 2,000, 2,500 people. The leadership of the church decided to adopt it and really expand it into a bunch of different areas of the church. And I'll show you what this is. You can find out more about my resources at churchbrandguide.com. Church Brand Guide is a brand that I created to specifically help churches to do communications better. And you can follow me on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram as well at Church Brand Guide. So check those out, and I try to provide as much helpful things as I can on those outlets. So the problem that I found when I was on staff, and I've been on church staff at a mega church and a church plant, and in communications, I found that there was a lot of confusion, and maybe you're in the same place. There's just a lot of confusion when it comes to communicating or marketing your events. So on staff, I was confused, and then as a result, as I created promotions, the promotions were confusing. So people in the congregation didn't know exactly what was going on. There's just a lot of information, but there wasn't like a direct, here's what we want you to do. So sometimes, I mean, we did a good job. I think it was all right, but it wasn't maybe as clear as it could be. So it was confusion. And one thing we know is confusion is the enemy of your vision. So if you have a vision for something and confusion comes in, then that doesn't happen. The other thing that happened was that we wasted a lot. Sometimes we print something and it had the wrong date and we have to reprint it. And I felt terrible about that. Or sometimes a lot of times we have to rush an order. Like we needed something, but instead of doing it in advance, we had to rush it and pay that extra $40 or whatever it was to have it rushed, or overnight shipments or different things like that. So we were being wasteful. And there was a lot of pressure. It just felt like all the time, every single month, there's new events coming up. And I just felt the pressure of, man, having to produce content and design things and create videos. There was late nights. I remember staying many evenings, late into the evening, as I was just up and coming in church world as a communications person. I remember staying till the alarm would set at 11 p.m. at one of the churches I worked at, and I would stay there until like 10:55 and just barely run out the door before the alarm set because I was trying to get stuff done before the weekend. So there's a lot of pressure that comes when you're in communications trying to promote different things, and I really felt that. So the solution is this idea of a plan. How can we plan ahead so we have clarity? So I'm clear as a church staff, or even as the church leadership, we're clear about what we're trying to do, what we're trying to accomplish. And as a result of that, our communications becomes clear, our promotions becomes clear. It also, when you plan ahead, well ahead, like I'm talking months ahead of time for whenever the event's happening, we get to be more creative. I remember we used to promote this men's event every twice a year at one of the churches I was at. And usually it was just a pastor on the screen saying, hey, this men's event's great. All of you men show up and it'll be great. Well, then we started to plan ahead. We started to implement the system I'm going to show you here in just a moment. And we had months to plan out the promotions. And we started to look for new ways and fresh ways to communicate. One of the things is that we did was the worship pastor is a very energetic, bubbly guy. He worked out a lot, had a lot of muscles and all that stuff. So we used him as kind of a spokesman, and we created some humorous commercials to promote the men's event. And the attendance at those events went up because we were able to communicate clearly, plan ahead of time, and be creative with some of our promotions. It got more people engaged. Also, one of the things that happened when we planned was that we became better stewards. I felt better because I didn't have to do the rush shipments. I was saving the church's money, and we weren't making as many mistakes because we had more time to plan. The result was growth. We saw more men coming to the men's event and other events that we had. And we were more full of joy, I would say. Joy is kind of a funny word, but I really enjoyed my work because I wasn't always under this pressure to produce. I enjoyed working with people, and I didn't have the tension of like the kids ministry turning in their stuff late, was reduced. So there was more joy on our team. And also we were able to innovate because we had more time, some more breathing room, some margin. We were able to do things like Facebook Live, where we're able to implement some new technologies and strategies to promote events, to talk about events, even do some stories and interviews. Instead of always like somebody saying, hey, you should come, we began to tell more stories and be more innovative in how we did things. So those are some of the results that I'm hoping you will see. And again, this is one of the topics I'm most excited about, because I think you will see the most benefit out of it right away if you can implement it. So at this recording, we're at the very first part of the year. We're in January, and this should help you for the rest of the year. My hope is that this really is a game changer for you for the rest of the year. So the next thing I'm gonna put up on the screen, if you're watching this, it's gonna be overwhelming. It's gonna be a grid, kind of a spreadsheet that I created that is our system. But stick with me, don't bail, okay? When you see this, especially for you creative people, like, this is gonna be crazy for you. But I wanna unpack it so it makes sense, and it will make sense. And again, it'll be a game changer for you. So this is the system. It's a tier system that I created when I was on staff, and again, it just helped us out quite a bit. So there's a lot going on here. There's a grid, and there's all these different things, but I'm going to unpack it so it makes sense for you. Okay, so let's start into that. There's really four parts to this system. So the spreadsheet is really made up of four parts. The first part of it, the first step for you, is to write down all the events that you're going to be doing for the year. Just create a list. Like, get on a whiteboard and just list out all the events you're going to have for the year. So here's where we're going, by the way. So let me unpack so you understand the journey we're trying to take. What we want to do is take all our events and put them in a place where we know what's coming up for the next, let's say, 12 months. We know when it's going to happen. And we also know what we're going to promote. Like, on a communications marketing side, we know exactly what we're going to do. So again, right now it's January, but we need to know on Easter in April, when Easter happens, exactly what we're going to be doing right now in January, so we can start designing and building those promotions right now. So we're creating a system that will allow us to do that, to plan in advance and know exactly what we're going to need to build. And because we know exactly what we need to build and create, we know the money that we're going to spend. So another side benefit is that we have a budget. Like, we know how much we're going to spend on Easter well in advance. In fact, we can know how much we're going to spend for the entire year. Once we fill out this worksheet, we'll have an idea. So when I was on staff at the church, I'd always have the marketing people ask me, what's my budget? Like, how much do you need this next year to promote all our events, do all our marketing? And I always struggled with that. I was like, man, I don't know. There's so many things we can do. Well, once I got this in place, I began to come up with a number. And that number was pretty accurate for the year. And they loved it. They loved me, and I loved that I could give them something that they can work with. And we were able to do so much more because we had the clarity. So again, that's what we're working on, a list of all events and what items are going to be needed to promote those events, resulting in a budget. We know exactly how much we're going to be able to spend for each event. One of the benefits is that each department in the church is going to know what they can expect. So the youth ministry can know what they can expect in terms of marketing ahead of time. The best way to work this system is that you get everybody together at the beginning of a year, and you just create your tiers and determine what the resources are that the different ministries are going to be able to get based on budgets and what's available. And everyone will be in a much better place because they know what to expect for their events. So it creates a great culture on your staff. It's unity and it's collaboration. And there's also a sense of there's limited resources. So again, I've been on church staff as a church communications person, a graphic designer, video person, photographer. There's only so much that I can do. There's a limit to your creative team and how much they can do. So if you create this tier system, you're able to work within those limits, get some really, really great results, and create a great culture as you do this. So back to the parts of this, the four parts. Again, if you have questions, please feel free to type them in. I'll circle back around, but I'll do my very best to unpack this as clearly as I possibly can. So the first system, create that list. Top to bottom, doesn't matter what order it is, just create the list. The list of events that are happening throughout the year in all departments and all the events that are going to need to be promoted and marketed. List those events out. Second, create the different types of media that you are able to produce as a church. So different churches have different resources available to you, but go ahead, no matter what resources you have available, list them out. All the resources you have available for marketing. So maybe flyers, so I created 3 categories, and you can use these exact same categories. I called it print, digital, and video. So we had the ability to print certain things, so anything that's printed. We had digital marketing, such as Facebook and Instagram, or anything along those lines, social media-wise, or even emails, different things like that are all digital. And then we had video, where we can shoot a video of some kind and produce a video of some kind. So we had 3 categories. Within those categories, we had different types of so let me jump back to the big spreadsheet, and I'll read out just a few of the printed things. So print, we had bulletins, we had invites, like little small invites that people could take with them. So little invites to Easter or whatever event was coming up. It could be a flyer as well, something along those lines. We had a banner in our lobby that we could put up, like a big banner that says, Easter coming, whatever the dates were. We had an outdoor banner that was in the lawn of the church. So that was another option for us. The city allowed us to do that, so we have that. And then we had these A-frames or sandwich board signs. They look like an A. They're 2 foot wide, 3 foot tall. And we could put those out in the parking lot or in the hallways. And that's what we had available to us. So those are examples of print. Video, we had like a video announcement, which is kind of this talking head, somebody talking. We also had the ability to do like a commercial, like if we wanted to create something more creative, or we could tell a story of some kind, like a testimonial. So we listed all those items down under video. And then on digital, just some examples of digital, we had our website where we can create a specific landing page for that event. We also had a Facebook post that we could do, Instagram post, we could do a Facebook Live, we could do paid ads on Facebook. We also had YouTube that we can use, and emails. So we had all those different types of digital media. So again, column 2 on your screen, the second thing you need to do is list out all the different forms of media that you have available at your church to produce. So if you don't have somebody on your team that can produce video, then maybe that's not one of the things on your list. But if you do have people that can create a video, even using something like iMovie, well, then go ahead and put that as one of your options. So you'll have a list of all options. And the third part of this system is to create a tier system. So this is probably the most challenging piece, because you have to determine what is a tier 1, 2, and 3. So tier 1, let's just make it easy. Tier 1 gets everything. So everything that you listed out in the media portion in section 2 there, all the different ways that you have to promote something, let's just say tier 1 gets all of it. Tier 2, let's just say gets half of it. And then tier 3 gets just the basics, maybe 2 or 3 items that are free. So let's just say tier 3, for example, is free advertising. It doesn't cost anything, because you can put it on Facebook, and you send out an email blast to your church and advertise something doing it that way. That's totally free. There's no cost to it. So those are your tier 1, 2, and 3. And then this is the challenging part of this third section. You have to go back to section 1, to that list of all events, and you have to determine which events are tier 1, which events are tier 2, and which events are tier 3. So the challenge is, and what I've seen in the past, is that everyone wants to be a tier 1. So if you have a room full of people, there's a youth director, the kids director, the men's and the women's director, all these different people in the room. All of them feel like they should get a tier 1. So you might have to figure things out with your people to be like, we can't all be tier 1. So one of the rules I put into place is that if it's a big church-wide event, it's a tier 1. So Easter, Christmas, there was a back-to-school type of event that we did in September. And Mother's Day was kind of a big deal for us too. So we had like 4 tier 1s that got everything we could put to it. And then tier 2s, again, they get half the amount of resources. So most everything else fell into a tier 2. So like the men's event that we had was a tier 2. The youth event, most everything else was a tier 2. And then tier 3 were smaller. They affected maybe less than 200 people, which would have been 10% of our church at the time. And so they got the tier 3, where they get advertising, but it's just done in a way that's free, that we can send it out digitally, and like a Facebook Live, it's free. So we could do that and promote something really well, and it doesn't take a whole lot of our time or resources as a creative to produce those promotions. So that's what you have to do. You have to take those tiers and assign them to the events, so you know what your events are. So what you're going to see happening is that you can have a little bit of tier 1s, a little bit more tier 2s, and probably even more tier 3s as you kind of play this out. Now what you can do in section 3, actually section 4. Section 4 is the kind of the last section of this system. You just put a price. So let's take invites. Maybe you print flyers for your events, and maybe you print 500 flyers for your events, and the cost is about $100 for those flyers. Well, now you can write that in. It's 500 flyers. It's going to cost about $100. So whenever you have a check or an X on flyers, it's going to be a $500 cost. So continue to do that. If it takes, if you have to hire out a video editor and it costs another $500 to get a video edited, then that's a cost that you can put into that area. So I have a section right here again on my screen where it has cost. There's just a little row here for cost. Printing stuff is going to have probably the most cost. So just determine what that is. How much is it to print a banner? Well, once you figure it out once, it's the same thing every single time you do it. So if it's $100 to print that outdoor banner that's 4 foot by 8 foot, then there's a $100 cost to that item. So once you have costs written down, then you can total up the cost for a tier 1 and get a total. So in my example, a tier 1 is $1,000. It costs $1,000 to promote a tier 1 event. In my example, tier 2, it's about half that amount. So we put $500 to promote a tier 2 event. And then in column 3, those are all free. It doesn't cost anything, so those are free. So now what we can do is just use some simple math. And if we have, let's say, 3 tier 1s, then 3 tier 1s at $1,000 is $3,000. So now for the year there's $3,000 that's needed to promote those events. And then you just do some more simple math for tier 2s and 3, and then add them all up. And all of a sudden you have a yearly budget for what it's going to take to promote your items. So you're asking people to collaborate with you. So this is a system that's a collaboration of the communications team and also the departments. And so you'll have to work together to figure out exactly which items are given to each event, and then create those tier systems. The least amount of tiers, the better. So tier 1, 2, or 3. You could add a tier 4, but it starts to get a little tricky as you add some more of those things. All right. So again, if you have any questions, make sure you just type them into the block. Hopefully I explained that well. Again, this was a game changer for our church. When I introduced this as the communications director, again, I was a consultant coming in, just working very hands-on with this church. It was a good-sized church, a couple thousand people. We implemented the system, and it just decreased the noise quite a bit on the staff when it came to like marketing and communications. It just helped everybody get on the same page. The executive leadership of the church actually adopted this tier 1, 2, and 3 system to allot resources to departments. So I won't get into the details of that, but they thought it was just a great way to think about what kind of resources are available for the church departments. I want to let you know about the coaching membership, because I'm going to put a couple things to help you do this in the coaching membership. I have a PDF, and I'll show that to you if you're watching this on video. This is a PDF of that spreadsheet that I showed you, so you can see it a little bit more clearly. I've got some costs associated with the different items, and this is an actual, like when I was working with a church, like this is an actual example of all the different events and costs that we had. So it's real life. So this might be something that you can use. I'll provide a PDF and also a Word document so that you're able to customize this for your church. So I've done the work. I've kind of created the sections for tier 1, 2, 3. This one actually had a tier 4. So tier 1, 2, 3, 4. It was a bigger church, so they had a lot more happening. And then I listed out all the different ways we can market an event. So you can have that list, so you don't have to start from zero. And then you can see how I assigned it based on who gets a tier 1, 2, 3, or a tier 4. So again, that's going to be in the membership section. The membership is where I want to serve you with video replays of all the sessions that I do so that you can train your team. That's one of the things that I was asked about quite a bit as I work with churches and help them create brands. We had this great collaboration where I helped them kind of think about things on a marketing perspective. And they kept on asking, hey, can you help us? Can you train us to do this as well? Because we do ministry, we don't do marketing. Can you help us? So this is my way to help churches train up people, even volunteers within your church, to do communications well. So it's a library where they can go back and get the different resources, the free PDFs and Word documents and everything else I provide. Plus the video training of sessions just like this so they can understand how to do it. And I also have examples. So I take photos and I post like a library, a gallery of photos so you can see a lot of this stuff. Anyway, you have access to all of it, $37 a month. Jump in there with the coaching membership if you're not in there already. And you can cancel anytime. It's very, I want to keep it just very open. So as long as you need it, you can hang on to it and have it. But if you don't need it anymore, that's cool. You can just save that cost. And but my hope and dream and my goal is to build it into a resource that's just going to add a ton of value to your church staff and to your team and help you see more people showing up. And then once they show up, taking them further on that journey so that they become members and they buy in, they contribute to the church and to the vision that God has given you. So check out that membership area, churchbrandguide.com. This is, again, Church Brand Guide, where I want to serve you as your virtual communications director. I would love for you to jump into our membership area if you haven't checked that out yet. Otherwise, let me open it up. If there's any questions, feel free to throw those my way. That is our session for today. I want to honor your time and make sure that we stay within about 20 to 30 minutes on these sessions. And again, we do them about every 2 weeks. And you can feel free to join us. I'll send out emails. And today I will send out a replay of this session so you can get that replay and be able to show it to your staff or team if you need to do that. So thanks for joining me today, guys, on this session. I don't see any questions as of right now. So maybe I did a really good job of explaining this. And also there was a time change. I know there's not a lot of people on live today because of that time change. So that's okay. You guys can definitely check out the replay. And if you do have questions, email those to me after the fact. And I'd love to respond to those questions that you might have. All right, guys. Hey, thanks for joining me. And I will go ahead and sign off and see you on the next call in about 2 weeks. Take care.